Hello, good evening, students. So, this is Madhuri from St. Peter's Engineering College. So, we are today. I'm going to introduce about the second unit. Okay, the first unit is a very short unit. So, we are going to the second unit. Second unit is a typical embedded system. Okay. Why it is called a typical embedded system? So, embedded system is nothing but it is a combination of hardware and software which is used to do a particular task. Okay, particular task. The task will be related to application and domain specific, means only a particular task. It will not do the other task which is not of its concern. Okay, so where we are using embedded systems in everywhere, all of our digital home appliances we are using embedded system. Okay, so here typical embedded systems are domain and application specific. This domain and application specific word is very important. In the first unit, we have discussed what is this domain and application specific. Suppose, example, a washing machine is there. What is a washing machine? What is the application of the washing machine? Is to wash the clothes and dry up and give you. But it could not do another task which is not at all related. Like it cannot cook food, or it cannot do any other like AC. That is not its application. What is a domain given to them only to do only this application? It will not take more than one application, only one application, that is also domain specific, which is ask them to do that only it will do. No different task cannot be done, but more number of tasks within the domain can be done by the embedded system. So washing machine will wash the clothes, AC will give you cooling. Like that, every embedded system will have a specific application, and it is domain specific also. So that's why we are calling embedded systems are domain and application specific, and they are built across around a central core. So what is the core here? Core is nothing but what are the main origins of the embedded system? What all the main things should be there so that the embedded system is playing a major role. Okay, so what is the main parts? What are the main parts? Okay, what is the main functions of the embedded system devices which are used eh, which are used for better performance of the embedded system? Okay, so these are some devices. The core of the embedded system falls under category of first one is general purpose and domain specific processors. That's why just now I have discussed, na? So it should have, it will be used for the general purpose, and it also have some domain specific processors which is used to do some particular application. Okay, so they are domain specific application. So here in general purpose and domain specific, we are using some devices which are very important. Without this there is no embedded system. Okay, of course, a microprocessor and microcontroller and digital signal processor, these three should be there, then only we can call it is a proper general purpose and domain specific processor. Okay, if you take a washing machine, you will have a processor inside, controller inside, digital signal processor inside. Okay, everything will be there. In every device, you will have a basic these three. And also there are some other applications, application specific integrated circuits, programmable logic devices, commercial off the shelf components. Okay, where you will find these are all the devices which is fixed for the embedded system to perform well. Okay, So this should, if any embedded system, any device you take, these are the basic components of the embedded system. So that's why we are calling it as core of the embedded system. Okay. Next. So we discuss about general purpose and domain specific. So every embedded system will have either processor or controller based upon the use. Okay. So it may be a digital signal processor also, but the basic thing is processor or controller should be there. First of all, we will know what is the difference between microprocessor and microcontroller. What is a very important 2 marks question, and generally everyone should know what is the difference between processor and controller, because it's very important and very basic. The students should know about this, because it should, as a easy student, you should know this difference, and this is very important one also. Okay, so microprocessor or a microcontroller. You have studied MPMC in third year, right? So who know MPMC, they should know what is processor and controller, of course. Okay, so a processor is a silicon chip representing a CPU. So it is an on-chip device, whereas microprocessor is an off-chip device. Means here in a processor, what all the other devices, everything is built inside. When you buy it, it is already inbuilt in the CPU. It will represented inbuilt in a silicon chip. No need to add any external device. It is on chip. Okay. Whereas in a processor, whereas a controller, it is a dependent one. It should require some combinations. Like you should have a memory, timer, and you should have some interrupt controller also. Okay, so that you can add so many of devices in that, and it is not inbuilt. You can add many devices to that. So both has equal importance, because both are very fast in functioning. But in a processor in a processor or a controller, the speed should be high. Okay, so in the off-chip processor, we can have more number of devices, because we can combine any device to it. So we can have a timer, interrupt controller and all. So these are the basic knowledge of processor and controller. Next. So this is the development of microprocessor. We have Intel 404, Intel 4040, and Intel 808. These are all the starting one. Once they have introduced this microprocessor in the market, starting these were the microprocessors which was used long back, 1971, 1947, and 1974, like that. So Motorola they used to use some processor called Motorola 6800. Okay, like that there are many. These are few important microprocessor are there. There are so many are there. These are very important among all. Okay. Now coming to the architectures, what we are using for this processor design are hardware or no von Neumann. Hardware, hardware, hardware or von Neumann. This is the name of a scientist called von Neumann, and another person is the hardware. Hardware. It is nothing but the design of a processor architecture, how it should be placed, how the processor should be placed, how the data should be transferred to the processor, how should it go inside and come out. Okay, what all the devices we have to use. This comes under the architecture. So only processor is there, but there is no architecture, means waste. So you should have some architecture. Architecture is a design of a building. Like that, it is a design for a processor also, so that we will use the processor correctly. Okay, so the design should be there. So there are two types of designs are there, Harvard and von Neumann. There is no much difference. It is nothing but only depends upon the memory, because in hardware architecture you will have separate buses for instructions for data fetching. What is a bus? Bus is nothing but a information carrying center. Okay, so bus is consists of so much of information that will be carried to the another device. So so in hardware architecture we will have a separate bus, one for getting the information, one for sending the information. Okay, so that is only it is saying it has separate bus for instructions as well as data fetching. Okay, it will give, one bus will give the instructions, one bus will take the data from the others. Okay, fetching the data. Whereas in von Neumann, it is on a single bus. It shares single bus. In that, using one bus, we are using, we are sending the instruction and we are getting the instructions. Okay. So next point in hardware is easier to pipeline. So high performance can be achieved. Pipelining is nothing but fetch, decode, execute. We need to first bring the data, execute, and decode again. Okay. So this will be very easy in pipeline because we are using separate buses. So there is no much confusion. Okay. Whereas here in a von Neumann, there is only a single bus. Only single bus is doing so much of multitask. So it will, the performance will be little comparatively slow. Okay. Okay. And this Harvard architecture is cost is high and it is cheap. Okay. And also very important point is here in hardware, data memory and program memory are physically in different locations. So if you want to corrupt the data, there is no chance. Okay, because we have a separate buses. Okay, so and also we will have a separate memory also. But in the von Neumann, the data and program memory both will be saved in the same chip. Same. So if some disturbance happened, both will be gone. Okay, so that is a drawback of this von Neumann. Okay, so what is the difference? Hardware is will have separate bus for getting the instructions and getting the data, giving the instructions or getting the data. Whereas von Neumann, it will have a same bus for instructions and for getting the data. Pipelining is easy there, pipelining is hard here. Okay, performance is high there, performance is low in hardware. It is costlier, it is cheaper. Data and program memory will saved on the same chip? No, it will not be same chip in hardware. Okay, whereas in von Neumann, it is on the same chip. Okay, these are the basic 5 differences of hardware and architecture in von Neumann. If you see the diagram for this, so this is the diagram for von Neumann versus hardware. So here we have a CPU and a code memory, program memory. See, program memory, code memory will be separate. Okay. Suppose this program memory is not there, only you have a CPU and code memory, then it becomes hardware architecture. Only that CPU will be sending the data and getting the data. Okay, but in hardware we will have a separate program memory and code memory separate. Okay, so that's why there is no loss of data. Okay, next. So next difference, this is the also very important, RISC and CISC. What is RISC? reduced instruction set computing. Okay, CISC is complex instruction set computing. Okay, so it is nothing but the way of instructions we are sending to the device, that they have categorized into two parts, reduced and complex. That's it. So if you want to send less number of instructions, you will use this RISC. If you want to use more number of instructions, then you go for CISC, complex. Complex is nothing but greater number of instructions, large number of instructions. That is the difference. Next here, and also of course the instructions pipelining, everything speed will be very high here because the instructions are very less. But here there is no exist of instructions pipelining features. That is the main difference in CISC. Next is orthogonal instruction set. They will operate in any register because they have an address. Suppose if you are sending some instructions to a data, it will register and it will give you the address also. But on this non-orthogonal set, instructions are not allowed. They will not allow to operate any other registers. Okay, that is the main difference. Next is operations are performed on registers only. Only memory operations are load and store. So whatever we are doing operation, that will be performed on registers. Okay, and memory locations are load and store. Whereas operations are performed either on registers or memory, depending upon the instructions given. Okay, so here we are using a large number of availability of registers because whatever the data we want to send to the RISC, all will be saved in the registers. After that we will send to a addressing mode for them. That is the thing. Whereas here CISC we have a very limited registers, very limited data is used. Okay, so this is reduced instruction set, complex instruction set computing. These are all the instructions which we are using in microprocessor and microcontroller. Okay, next, of course the same difference. Programmer need to write more code to execute a task. Okay, since instructions are very simple one, we need to write some code also. Here there is no need to write code because the instructions are very great. So the programmer should achieve the functionality with a single instructions only. Okay, and here it is single fixed length instruction, it is variable. Why it is variable? Because it is a very complex device, complex instructions. Okay, next, so this is about again a microcontroller. So microcontroller is an integrated chip which will contain a CPU, scratch pad, RAM, special and general purpose registers, arrays. Okay, it is an on-chip flash or ROM memory. It has so many things. Okay, so here the controller, some embedded systems we require 8-bit controllers, whereas we may require some for 16 or 32-bit controllers. Okay, so here the instruction set of the microcontrollers, it can be a RISC or CISC. Any type of instruction set it can take. Okay, so it is an inbuilt device, on-chip device, which have everything inside inbuilt. Okay, and these microcontrollers are designed for general purpose application requirements as we have discussed before in, okay, or domain specific application requirement. So this microcontroller, we are calling it as on chip processor, okay, integrated chip with the silicon, and also contain all the registers, memories, timers, everything will be there in that, okay. That is about the microcontroller. Next, of course, digital signal processors. So these are very important and very special purpose processors which are used to design. They are used to design computational demands and power constraints. Suppose audio and video communication applications. So signal anangane, so signal means we need to tell about audio and video. Right? If the signal is not there, if no one can listen you. Huh? Video, no one can see you. Right? So here the signals are very important, mainly for the communication appliances. Okay. So what we will use in this digital signal process, we will use processors. General processors, that should be 2 to 3 times fast. Okay, then only the signal will be very strong. It can do the application very properly. Okay, whereas this, and also this digital signal processors, they can implement algorithm in hardware, and also they can speed up execution also should be very fine. But here in the general purpose process, the algorithm is in software. So that is the problem. Speed of execution, we need to have a clock for that. Okay, so that is the main difference between the general purpose processor. DSP is for hardware and general purpose for software. When they do combined up properly, we will have a general digital signal processors. But mostly we need to have a special functions, special applications for doing all this. Okay, so mostly we will use digital signal processors for first communication purposes, for signal purposes, for audio and video, satellite, everything we need to have signal processors. Okay, so here what does the DSP includes? It should have a program memory, data memory, computational engine, input output. What is the program memory? The digital signals processor should have a memory for storing the program, whatever the data we send. After that, the working model of the program should be there in the data memory, because the code will be converted again into a data. That data should be there in the data memory. It is indirectly a working model of the device. It may be in a data or it may be in terms of signal. Okay, computational design is nothing but, here we are giving some arithmetic units, plus or minus, or some other calculations which is related to the instructions that will be stored, and also it will increase indirectly the execution speed. Means once the program is dumped, it will tell you how much of time it will take, and also it will see that the execution speed is increased. Okay, and also it has some shifters for shifting from one operand to the another, means one instructions to the another instructions. So computational engine is nothing but overall working execution of the process, and also it will see that the execution speed is high. Okay, next is the input or output unit. Of course, this is an interface between the world and the DSP. Okay, it is used for capturing signals. It should be used for delivering the signals like audio, video, signal processing, telecommunication, multimedia. audio visual signal processing, if we are sending the input, the electrical will be sent as an electrical signals will pass as a digital signals, which we are seeing as an audio and video signals. So this input and output unit is an interface between the outside world and DSP. Okay, and it can capture the signal, it can deliver the signal also. That is the main use of this input or output units. Okay, so with this we will stop this session. Thank you.